Hey guys, JK here. Really excited about this new announcement and this new update. We've alluded to these 4 new units coming our way for a while now, but now we finally get to talk about them in detail. And I'll get further into detail on the Valkyrie job and the merchant job at the end of the video, so stick around if you're curious about that. But first, we'll just go talk about the 4 units in general. So we're getting Teona, Aruba, Hazel, and Courage, 2 Thunder, and 2 Fire. All of them are good. So the first one is Teona, who's going to have a job 1 of Valkyrie, which is of course a new class, a new job. This is a nice blend of like a DPS / tank unit. So these are nice because, you know, in this game, a lot of the DPS units tend to be kind of squishy, and the tank units tend to be slow and maybe not that damage dealing, but this is a nice blend of those 2 attributes. So I'm really looking forward to this. Maybe it'll be kind of like a Sita as well. Sita's fairly tanky and dishes out good damage, so I love those kind of units. Her other jobs are Dragon Knight and Holy Cavalier. Not a bad lineup at all. So we'll see what we can do as far as her passives and everything goes. The recommended job is Valkyrie, of course. Basic ability, basic dragon. You know, I'm not really sure if I agree with that, but we'll take a look at the Valkyrie basic ability and see if there's anything worth using there. Reaction ability, Revenge of Odin. This is a nice counter ability, and it does actually have a good proc rate, so I can agree with that. The other option would be the HP drain +1 if you want to make her even more tanky, because, you know, obviously you can top off your HP a little bit better when you get attacked that way. But anyway, that's a nice recommendation. Passive 1 is Barrier of Einherjar, which raises her physical defense and HP, making her even tankier. And then, of course, Guardian, which is from the Holy Cavalier job, raising her defense even more. So we're looking at a very tanky unit who's also capable of killing things really well. Hopefully her agility is not too low. All right, so the second job, or new job, is with the character Aruba. And this new job is called Merchant, which is a really cool support job, and we'll take a look at that as well. Aruba is actually a very good unit, even from job 1. Very, very usable. You don't necessarily need to have the other stuff. And in fact, the other stuff kind of doesn't really synergize all that well. It's kind of a weird combination. I forgot to mention that Tiana has a great leader skill, 30% physical attack and 20% HP to thunder units, as does Aruba. Just really great leader skills. I'm kind of lacking in that area with my roster, so I'm really hoping to grab, you know, both of these units, at least one of the 2, but I really want both. So yeah, we have job 1 Merchant, and the recommended setup here is Merchant, of course, and basically yeah, basic salesman skill is also for the Merchant job, so I agree with that. This is a very good support class that has a good main skill lineup as well as the basic skills. So very usable from job 1, as I mentioned. Reaction ability, HP drain +2. That's actually a really nice way to keep him alive, and that would of course come from the Dragon Cavalier job, so you would need the job 3. But if you don't get job 3, he still has some good reactive stuff. Don't worry about that. Passive 1, How's Business, raises his initial joules. I think it's by 10. We'll take a look and confirm that. Not a big deal, but, you know, it's nice to have. And then passive 2, Survival Instinct, from the Beast Tamer job. Basically, that just, you know, helps him to survive fatal damage sometimes. So pretty interesting support, very, very unique, and going to be very useful going into the future. Hazel is a unit that probably most people have anticipated the most off this banner. Machinist is a great job, as we've all come to know. You know, as a job 1, that means that she's usable right off the bat, but she also comes with some nice other jobs, and that'll make her passives really good as well. Magic Swordsman, that'll give her, of course, Divine Shelter, which is like awesome. Ranger has some possibilities, and this gives a nice leader skill here as well. HP by 50% for fire units. So there's no attack attached to this, but the reason this can be good is because, you know, when you bring things like supports or even mages, like the physical attack buff is not going to help you. So sometimes you will want to have the HP rather than the attack on the leader. So, you know, this gives you some more possibilities as far as team comps, and leader skill is very important if you have a good one. The recommended setup is Machinist, and that's not a surprise. Basic hunting, I don't know if I truly agree with that, but I mean, I can see why. You know, Ranger has some nice status ailment inflicting type of abilities, and some range, AoE and things like that. Although I think situationally you would also want to consider the basic magic blade, whatever it's called, the swordsman skills, because that way you can cover all the elements and do a lot of damage if enemies come up close. So there's some possibilities there. Reactive armor as a reaction ability helps her to survive. Totally agree with that. Passive Eagle Eye, range +2. Of course, you'd want the extra range. And Divine Shelter, one of the most OP passives in the game, just going to help her stay alive that much better. So yeah, this is a very well-rounded machinist who's actually survivable. I mean, not that Magnus has a hard time surviving on his own either, but imagine Magnus with the Divine Shelter passive, how much more survivable he would be. So this is a really good unit. And of course, we're starting to stock up now on these fire ranged units, so that's even better. And then we have Courage, who's a job 1 sniper. First time in global, I believe, and that's a really big deal because I know some people maybe still don't have a sniper, or they don't have a second sniper or a third sniper. As you've seen from my apple farming videos, for instance, having multiple snipers can be useful, although it's not necessary. There's other ways around it. But a job 1 sniper is really nice, especially a fire one. So Sniper Crafter has some nice passive abilities and you know, things that you can equip. And then job 3, Dark Knight, for the overlimit passive, which can give you extra damage if you need it. So pretty cool unit. The leader skill's not bad as well. Physical attack by 30% to fire units, but of course it's not on par with some of the other 5-star base units. The 4-star bases are of course going to have slightly worse leader skills, but still very good. So recommended setup is of course Sniper. Basic firearms would come from the crafter job, so that would give her the ability to have some AoE as well, which is nice. Counter snipe, nice reaction ability that's guaranteed because it does good damage, of course. Long snipe for the extra range, and over limit for the extra damage. So really cool units. I mean, if you don't get her all the way up to job 3, you don't necessarily have to have it. I mean, as you know, the other snipers generally don't have that kind of passive, and they still do decent damage. But if you do have that over limit passive, she's going to be able to dish out more damage than your usual sniper. So with that, I'm going to go turn it over to the Alchemist Code DB page, and I'm going to go into more detail for the Valkyrie and the merchant jobs. So the first one we'll talk about is Aruba with his merchant job. And this is the first of its kind, of course. Basically, it's a support class that buffs up your teammates, but in the way of giving them jewels and possibly making them act faster. So it's a different kind of support. It's not healing. It's not, you know, raising their stats necessarily. So very interesting stuff. You start out with, 50% initial jewels, so that's good. Supports should always have a good starting jewel count so they can help right away, especially when they're kind of like all kind of close together, usually from starting positions, rather than everybody going their own way. So, but he does have 4 move, which is good because he can keep up if he needs to. His weapon scaling formula, or his attacks, are basically based on physical attack and luck. So actually, we see luck in here for the first time, affecting his damage output. But he's not really here to do damage anyway. Salesman skill, he uses 10 of his own jewels to give 10 to his teammate. And this shows the range. It's a range of 4. So pretty nice, and there's no casting time here. Jewel investment, this one costs 45 jewels of his own. And this greatly reduces the time until the next turn for the target ally unit. So within 4 squares or whatever, if you have a unit that really is going to be using something important, maybe you have a Dragon Cavalier that you want to clear out the enemies with Grand Cross, or you want to have a spell go off, I don't know, something that you want to happen faster, you can use this. It's not like an overclock necessarily, which is instant, you know, they move right away. But in a way, it's better because it doesn't have any casting time on Aruba's end or on the merchant's end. And what it does is it gives you 50 CT. And if you know how it works, usually you have to get up to 100 CT to act. So, you know, this is going to cut his charge time in half. Or if he's already at CT 50, after you do this, that potential, the ally can act right away. So this is a nice type of overclock type of thing, but it's not quite the same. So really cool ability here. Full Leverage is another no cast skill. This time, instead of giving 10 jewels, he's giving 20 of his own jewels to his ally. Really cool. Sound as a Stone. This one actually does have some cast time associated with it. Cast speed of 200 means on average roughly about 5 turns. And what this does is it gives the ally, instead of like a regen for HP, it's a regen for jewels. So that's pretty cool, pretty nice. I've never seen that before, and I don't know how much it gives per turn, but just having your ability to recharge jewels passively is really cool. I mean, that's part of what makes Turfing so OP with her weapon in Japan right now. So the fact that you can give that to your allies is pretty cool. Basic salesman skill. So we're done with the main skill sets already. Basic has Imminent Crisis, and this is another 4 range ability with 300 cast speed, so it's a little bit faster than the other one we just talked about. This one just gives blind on the target. Not a real big fan of that, because even if they're blinded, they tend to hit me anyway, so I don't really rely on that. Pyramid Scheme, 50 cost, which is pretty expensive, but and it has a cast speed as well. But what this does is it hits the enemies around you in a what is this, 5x5 diamond shape, and it charms them. I don't see any kind of probabilities associated with this, so it should be more or less guaranteed, unless they're maybe immune to it or something like that. But this is pretty cool. I mean, if he gets in a sticky situation, you know, he can charm himself out of it, charming all the enemies around him, so that's kind of cool. Poison Pill. This is kind of like Vaccine from a professor job, although the area seems to be smaller, so you have to be like right up against your teammates. But what this does is it basically gets rid of any status ailments, and it also immunizes them, just like Vaccine would. So that's pretty cool. Although this one says scope 5x5 diamond, so I don't know if this picture is wrong. Maybe it is. If it's a 5x5 diamond, that would be the same as Vaccine, so we'll have to confirm that. But yeah, it gives you immunity to all these things for 2 turns. Cure Delivery, again, anybody who's standing next to the merchant will get some HP recovery. And passive ability wise, what's cool about this job is it has enough passives so that it's self-sustaining. Like, you're not going to have an empty passive slot as you would with other jobs, which is why I said that he's perfectly viable from just job 1. His first reaction ability is Risk Hedge, and this is kind of like those Jewel Absorb type of abilities, although I do think the proc rate is a little bit better at 35% at level 20, so that's pretty nice. He can always use more jewels, of course. House Business is a support passive ability, which basically just gives you 10 initial jewels from the start of the match. And then Not Too Bad, these names are kind of funny. Not Too Bad just gives you extra jewels when you hit somebody. So this is kind of like if you were equipping like a Curious Doll, that's the same kind of effect. Again, you want to have this guy pumping out as many jewels for himself as you can, so he can give those away to the teammates. So all of these work really well with him. Really cool stuff. All right, so Tiana and her Valkyrie job, we'll go over this and then we'll be done with the video. As I said, kind of like a DPS / tank unit. As a typical melee type of unit, the jewels, starting jewels is pretty low. It's only 25%, but pretty good jewels obtained rate, plus 32. Move is 3, jump is 2, so pretty standard stuff there. But like with the Dragon Knight and Dragon Cavalier class, we have a range of 2 for the regular attack, and it's piercing, so you can hit multiple enemies in a line, which is really cool. And the weapon scaling formula is purely based on physical attack. So War Princess is an AoE ability, but this one just lowers physical attack and magic of enemy units within target area. If you were using her more as a tank in a certain situation while your other teammates are picking the enemies off, this is going to be pretty useful, because there are ways to stack defense and everything on this unit. And plus, if you lower the physical attack, that makes her even tankier, of course, and survive even longer. But I'm not a crazy fan of these kinds of debuffs. It's 20% at level 20. Wall of Light, this is her main attack, I guess, kind of like the typical Lightbringer. 3 range and then a cross shape area or scope. So one thing to note is that despite being a thunder unit, most of her skills are light element attached, so you get the thunder and light effects on it, which can be a good thing sometimes, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a drawback. So yeah, typical ranged cross shape ability. But this one actually raises her own physical defense for 3 turns when you use it. So it has that nice added attribute attached to it, and it's 20% physical defense. Definitely not bad at all, especially because her defense is already going to be high. Holy Armor, this is an attack that goes around her. So again, we've seen this before with what is it, Braveheart or something like that, although this is not quite as wide. But yeah, anytime she's surrounded, she can do this, and it also raises her magic defense. So situationally, if you're about to walk into a bunch of mages or something, you might want to use this. So you have a way to raise her physical defense, and you have a way to raise her magic defense. And then Battle Lance, this is a nice ability. So I might need some clarification here, but I'm assuming it's not like a Grand Cross because it shows an area of 1 square. So what this does is it's a strong... So the reason why I'm kind of confused about this one is because normally if you were gonna like have penetrating as an attribute of the effect or whatever, and you aim at the end of the range, like let's say 5 squares away from you, you would hit everything in the path and it would be called like 1 square line in the scope. But because it doesn't say that, I'm wondering if this is actually like a Grand Cross and hits everything in the cross shape within the range, or if it's not. So if somebody can clarify that, that would be really helpful. I mean, the area should show a cross then, I don't know. So I'm confused about that. But anyway, it seems to be a powerful attack. It costs 50 joules and it's considered strong in parentheses there. But it also raises her elemental resistance for 3 turns by 10. So this is really cool. It keeps up with the theme of like attack and buff herself at the same time, which is cool about the Valkyrie job. So with the basic job abilities, you have Skull's Foresight, which is just like a self buff, agility and physical attack for 3 turns, 15%. I would probably use this maybe in a longer match, but in most cases, like because Valkyrie only has starting joules of 25%, you're going to want to save those starting joules for like an initial attack or something like that. So this is probably situational. Whistling Arrow, this one is a 2 range, so basically just the range of the spear. But what it does is it raises own dark resistance for 3 turns. Again, situational, looks like just a basic attack with the dark resistance tacked onto it. Gerolol's Charge. Gerolol's Charge, I don't know. This one has a range of 4. What it does is it's a very basic attack. I mean, it just hits something from far away, but it also buffs up your move +1 until the next turn, so that's kind of nice. And the damage is a little extra than what you would normally get because it's considered medium, so yeah, nice little attack here. And then passive abilities, Revenge of Odin. This is a nice reaction ability because if you get it up to level 20, it's guaranteed at 100%. Like, I don't like those reaction abilities that are like 15% to proc. This one's guaranteed if you get it up to level 20. And of course it does the 2 range and penetrating type of thing with the spear. So you have to decide whether you want a nice physical damage reaction ability that's guaranteed, or if you'd want to maybe consider like HP drain +1 from the Dragon Knight class to keep her HP topped off. So that's a choice you would have to make. Barrier of Einherjar is a nice support passive, which raises her defense and HP by 15%, making her even tankier, of course. And that's it for passive abilities. So you probably would want at least one other job to add to her kit. You know, you want to have it all filled out. So anyway, that was the Valkyrie job. Hope I covered everything correctly. Let me know in the comments if there was something I misunderstood, especially with regard to that cross shape move, which I forgot what it's called. Yeah, this one, Battle Lance Brunhild. So if you have any insights into that, let me know. But other than that, I hope I covered everything in detail. I'm very excited about these units, and if they drop tomorrow, then I'm going to have plenty of pulls to show you guys. So yeah, take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.